Hello, everyone, and welcome back to season 3 of the Wi-Fi Jirachi division of VDL. And we are in Ubers. I was hopeful that this was the format we were gonna go with, Ubers in VDL. We had obviously low tier last season, which was the first time I played low tier. I've never played Ubers before either, so I wanted to play Ubers, and here we are in Ubers. Very excited for this. Last season we made it to quarterfinals. We did make playoffs, which was lovely. Obviously, we want to go further this season. Maybe semi-finals, maybe finals. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, before we rush ahead, let's get right into the rules of the draft that we participated in. So first of all, once again, we had 140 points this draft to draft with 10 Pokemon, but with one special addition, and that is that we have that there are obviously a lot more points than usual, and that's because we have gold tier Ubers. So the Ubers for this season, obviously we had Pokemon up to 30 points, Pokemon's from 26 to 30 points. We were only allowed to draft one of, and that would be our gold Uber for our team to use. So each coach gets one gold Uber for their team, and they build around that one gold Uber. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. I think we got a very good one. So yeah, let's get right into our first pick of the draft. First up, first of all, we gotta go with naming theme. Naming theme for this season of VDL is Precious Gemstones. And not Steven Universe characters, because I realized that a lot of the names are Steven Universe characters, but I only realized that afterwards. But yeah, that is not the naming theme. It is Precious Gemstones, and we started off with Amethyst, the Fluttermane. Not a gold Uber, is at 24 points, so below that 26 point threshold. But I don't know why it wasn't a gold Uber, because this thing is crazy. Just look at those stats. I mean, 55 HP, 55 attack, 55 defense. Terrible, right? Just dies to a small breeze on the physical side. And then you look at the special attack, SPDF, and speed at 135. This thing is a monster. It's lightning fast, outspeeds most of the things in Ubers. That special attack stat is crazy, with crazy coverage. Moonblast and Shadow Ball are stabs, that's all we really need. But if we don't need to rely on that, we have Energy Ball, Mystical Fire, Power Gem, Thunderbolt. I believe, I'm not gonna say Flash Cannon, but yeah, this crazy coverage. This thing just hits everything so hard. And I was looking. The reason why I picked it round one is because we had middle of the pack once again. I think we had 8th pick. So a lot of the big Ubers like Zacian, Groudon, Rayquaza, they'd all gone. So I was in a position where I was like, do I want to grab like a mid-tier Uber now, or do I want to grab the best thing that's just outside those gold Ubers? And that's what I went for. We went straight for the Fluttermane. Super strong pick, obviously. Has also things like Thunder Wave, Calm Mind to set up if it needs to. I can run Booster Energy to be able to boost its speed or special attack, either one, depending on if timid or modest. Can be Specs or Scarf. Gets boosts in Sun from, for example, when we play against Groudon, which I believe we do play week once. That's a big game. So yeah, this thing is crazy, and I'm so excited to use it. I'm still in shock. Ghost and Fairy is such a great typing and great stabs. It's something crazy, like of the gold Ubers, there's only like 2 or 3 Pokemon, and 2 of those are a form of a Pokemon in Dialga, that aren't weak to that stab duo typing, which is just crazy. This is such a great round 1 pick. Gives us the speed that we need. Outspeeds most things in the format. So yeah, I'm super excited to use Fluttermane, and yeah, such a strong round 1 pick. So yeah, obviously going into round 2, we had Fluttermane. We wanted round 2 was where I'm thinking, do I grab an Uber now that most people have grabbed their Ubers? And I was thinking to myself, or do I want to grab a Terra Captain, get a really good Terra Captain here to support Fluttermane, and just save our Uber, gold Uber, for later on in the draft. And that was what we ended up picking. So the rules for Terra, quickly before we get into our pick this season, is that there's only one Terra Captain per team. However, any Pokemon 18 points or below can be picked as that Terra Captain, except for a few bans. And that Pokemon can Terastallize into any type. We do have to declare typings just before the battle starts, so we'll know our opponent's typings of their Terra. But yeah, this Pokemon can Terastallize into any type. So it was really important to get a really strong Terra Captain. I think we achieved that when we picked up Ruby the Chi-Yu with free Terra. This thing is crazy. I don't know how this thing was allowed to be a Terra Captain either. Dark Fire is so strong. And we have Overheat, Dark Pulse, a million fire moves coming from that 135 special attack. We combined with Beads of Ruin, which lowers the opponent's speed further. And we can Terrasilize into a Fire or Dark, additional stab, or Terrasilize into another type to give us more coverage. This thing is crazy. 100 speed, it's a little bit slower than Floodmane, good speed test, still outspeeds a lot of the Ubers who sit around that 1995 mark, and also it's not the worst bulk either, not as quite as frail as Floodmane, has that 80 defense and 120 speed def, mixed with the 55 HP, and yeah, this thing just, it does clicks moves. It can be eject pack overheat sets. It can be Scarf or Specs, just absolute damage dealer. It can be a nasty plot set, sub nasty plot set. It can wisp our opponents if we need to. It can click Ruination to do half the HP of opposing tanks. This thing is crazy, and we can Terrasilize it so many different types. We can obviously just Terrasilize into our stabs. Overheat from Terrafire with Beads of Ruin from a Specs mon is what's eating that. Like, what is eating that? That does over half to something like an AV Milotic, which is crazy. Yeah, if we don't want to go down that route, we can grab a coverage move. We can go like Rock to be able to hit things. We can go Fairy to be able to get rid of our fighting weakness and hit fighting type super effectively. We can go Grass to be able to hit our weaknesses on the fire side super effectively. This thing has so much potential, I feel, as a Terra Captain at 17 points. And it outspeeds a lot of things, it deals damage, it complements, I think, Floodmane really, really well. Floodmane's obviously very, very weak to things like Ghost, like Shadow Sneaks, which we resist with Chi-Yu. It's weak to potential Steel types, which we also can break through with Chi-Yu. So yeah, this is, I think, a great complementary pick to Floodmane. I think it's going to be a great Terra Captain, and I'm really, really excited to use it. Another thing, obviously, 100 speed, but we do have Flame Charge, and 80 attack isn't the worst. So yeah, that is Chi-Yu. Just an absolute powerhouse with potential for slight amounts of utility as well. Now, going into round 3, we picked up Corviknight. Now, Corviknight at 15 points, we needed something bulky because we had so much offense from those 2 first-round picks that I felt like now that we have that offense going into round 3, we need some bulk. And Corviknight is a great example of that. We get a really, really strong, bulky steel type and a good flying type. Obviously, we were pretty weak to ground with those first 2 picks. We do pick up the ground immunity. We were pretty weak to potentially just a strong fairy type punching through us. We resist that with Corviknight. 3 great abilities: pressure to be able to wean PP down of opponents that want to click low PP moves and do loads of damage. We can just stall them out with Roost and get rid of their PP very quickly with pressure. We can be unnerved to get remove resist berries, citrus berries that the opponent wants to have to be able to deal with Corviknight. Mirror armor prevents our opponents from lowering our stats. If they want to click something like Mystical Fire into something like a Floodmane, we can come in on the Corviknight and throw that drop right back at them. If, for example, if we swap in on a Moonblast, they get that 10% drop of special attack. Nope, that's going to be reflected right back at them. So yeah, we can turn their luckiness into their own unluckiness with Mirror Armor, which is really, really crazy. This thing, 98 HP, 105 defense, such a great physical wall. 85 speed def isn't bad either. Also, it gives us a decent speed test, 67 to, obviously we had 2 very, very fast ones in Chi-Yu and Floodmane, so getting something a bit slower is also really, really nice. This thing has defaults, get rid of hazards. I don't think hazards are going to be as big this season. I think with everyone playing hyper offense, hazards aren't going to be as reliable, but I do think it's decent to be able to have a really, really solid remover. It has U-turn to be able to pivot out into our really, really offensive pieces, but also being decently slow. Obviously, it could be like, but there's always the option to go offensive with it as well, with like Iron Head sets or Bulk Up. It has Body Press, Power Trip with like Bulk Up Agility sets as a set that I could potentially run. It has dual screens it can set up. This thing has a lot of utility. Taunt as well, I believe, as well. Whirlwind, so many different things this thing can run. I'm really, it's the first time ever using Corviknight, which is kind of surprising. I've wanted to use it loads of times, but it always gets picked before I can get to it. So I'm really, really excited to use it. And I think it really, really synergizes well with the offensive pieces we've picked up so far. So going into round 4, obviously we still had those 2 big offensive pieces, but I did want to pick up something more defensive as well. Again, I felt like we were fighting was a big thing going into this that we had problems with. Obviously we had Floodmane, but having our Fairy and Ghost in the same slot is a bit tough when dealing with fighting types, and obviously having our flying type be part Steel isn't the greatest into fighting types. Fighting types which had coverage could just very easily beat the three up front that we had at the moment. So I did want something with a bit more physical bulk, and also at the same time give us a bit of defensive ability, while also giving us a solid dark resist, because obviously Chiyu is our only dark resist right now, and our fairy type being with the ghost typing means that it doesn't resist, so we do need a solid dark resist to not be able to just be obliterated by things like an Urshifu single or like a Weavile. So yeah, we picked up in round 3 Iron Hands. Topaz the Iron Hands, very fun pick. Once again, 154 HP, 108 defense is crazy. What gives us an even slower Pokemon to be able to sit in Trick Room, which is really nice. Obviously, the Quote Drive can be used with boost energy to boost our attack or defense, which attack at 140 means that even if we're not invested, if we're like a physically defensive set, we still do a lot of damage with moves like Close Combat, Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, Wild Charge. We have Heavy Slam, Ice Punch for ground types, obviously the Heavy Slam for fairies. We have the option to be like a bulky set which can rest up. We have Fake Out if we want to break sashes. And so many more options this can have. It has Volt Switch to be able to switch around, get us into those two offensive mons in Floodmane and Chiyu. Obviously, great typing, I feel like. Electric is really nice to be able to deal with flyers. And also be able to deal with bulky waters. This thing could come in on them, just Volt Switch back out into one of our offensive pieces. So yeah, it's really I think important to have our defensive pieces have utility when we have to have like pivoting options to be able to get into those big offensive sweepers that we have already picked up. So I felt like that was the really important thing here when picking up a defensive mon, is that we need pivoting, and that's what Iron Hands brings to this. Like, yeah, this thing just does everything it needs. EQ as well, really great coverage, obviously. Could be Iron Defense Body Press sets, Player Off as well. Rock Slide, Rock moves is really nice. Supercell Slam is not a move. After missing with Raikou, I don't believe in that move. We have Whirlwind as well to to stop setup. We have SD to potentially even become a threat ourselves. Opponents might think we're a bulky set and we just set up an SD and just start punching into things. This thing is also really great if we want to bring it into like a Trick Room. I know Trick Room is going to be really big with things like Calyrex Ice running around the format, so bringing this into like a Trick Room modes can also be really nice. Floodmane does learn Trick Room, so that is an option. But yeah, that is the thing this thing does. It's super bulky on the physical side, complements Corviknight really nicely, I feel like, and allows us to Volt Switch into our offensive pieces in Floodmane and Chiyu. So going into round 5, I felt like, even though I don't think hazards are as important in this format, I did want to actually get a Rapid Spinner, just because I feel like, obviously, with Corviknight's potential to set up screens, and obviously we're going to be potentially, we don't have any hazards set as yet, but we do pick up some later down the line. Be able to set up hazards. Defog isn't always, you don't always want to be only reliant on defog as a removal option. So I did want to pick up a Rapid Spinner. I also did want to pick up my bulky water before all the best ones were taken. I did initially want Tentacruel Hair as this pick as an option to be able to set up T-Spikes. Obviously, grounded poison plus the bulky water with Rapid Spin, decent speed tear. Unfortunately, that got sniped literally the pick before, but I think we got something that's kind of akin and might have ended up actually being better with synergy with our team, and that is Big Man Blastoise, Sapphire the Blastoise. Obviously, great starter. 78 speed tear is also really nice. Gives us a Rapid Spinner, gives us a threat, the option of threatening opponents with big water moves. From Shell Smash Blastoise, obviously has the ice coverage, has things like, can be run physically or specially, especially with that Shell Smash option. Obviously his moves like Wave Crash added to his moveset, Flip Turn as well for another pivoting option. Obviously Rapid Spin, EQ, I believe this thing gets Crunch as well for ghosts, rock moves. This thing has a lot of things. I don't know if it gets a physical ice move actually, it might do. To get like Ice Spinner. Does get the Ice Spinner as well. So yeah, this thing is really nice. Obviously it has Haze to stop setup sweepers, and just acts like a really nice physical wall. Obviously 105 Spadef, 79. A lot of our previous walls that we've picked up so far, Corviknight and Iron Hands, are definitely more on the physical side of bulk. This thing is a little bit more Spadefy, which is really nice and really complement the other two. obviously also has the option to just be another fake out user, which I really really enjoy. Has the option to roar out opponents. Obviously, Shell Smash can set up weather, has weather ball, so even if it's in like sun or hail, it can also have a decent option by clicking that. So yeah, I really really like this thing for what it does. It's a solid spinner. It makes our opponents have to prep for Shell Smash, because that is always an option. Even though we have massive threats, Blasters can be a surprise sweeper. I feel like this season, and I'm really, really excited to potentially run those kind of sets. It can be physical or special, which makes it really really difficult to prep for. You can flip turn around, get into our sweepers. I really really like that all three of our Pokemon so far have different pivoting options: U-turn, Volt Switch, and Flip Turn. It gives us that Volt Turn core, which was really really nice. Adds to the Volt Turn core, I believe. I mean to say. So yeah, I feel like this was really, really nice as obviously that second remover, and I think it will fulfill the roles we need. Now, going into round 6, I felt like we have no hazard setters so far. 5 rounds in, no hazard setters, no grounded poison. And I felt like we were in a bit of a bind here when it came to that situation. As much as hazards I don't think are important, I think we do need to at least have the option to have them on our team, just so that we can force boots from opponents in certain weeks. So yeah, we picked up Peridot the Clodsire. Now, if you watch previous drafts, you'll know that I said some unkindly things about Clodsire after dropping it specifically in MMC. But those bad times are behind us now. Me and Peridot the Clodsire, we're good friends now. We've made up our differences, and I feel like it's exactly what we need. We needed more Spadef bulk, 130 HP, 100 Spadef. We needed a grounded poison, is a grounded poison. We needed a ground type comes in. Unaware Mon, stop set of sweepers, really, really nice. Every hazard under the sun, except webs, obviously. Rocks, spikes, T-spikes, you name it, this thing gets it. Has the option to be toxic, with 100% toxic because of its poison typing. Can just have recovery and recover. Can just basically just sit in front of opponents if we need to. Can also use things like chilling water, has counter, curse, obviously great coverage, earthquake, gunk shot, ground moves, has liquidation, low kick, heavy slam, mega horn, Trailblaze, Zen Headbutt, really, really good physical coverage, which I really, really like. Has the option to even be just like a counter set if we need to get rid of something. Can haze away boosts from our opponents. Can recover, obviously, all the hazards, T-spikes. This thing does so much for us, right? It acts as our special wall, our de facto special wall, our unaware mon. Water Absorb is such a great ability as well. Blastoise was our only resist, but this gives us a really solid immunity, which is really, really nice. 20 speed. This thing is going to be the slowest mon. If we're facing into a Trick Room team, this thing can underspeed our opponents, and just throw off Toxics and just be a nuisance with Curse if it needs to. So yeah, I feel like this can very much gives us such a strong defensive core of Corviknight, Enhanced Blastoise, Clodsire. Gives us the hazards we needed. Gives us the grounded poison. I feel like these 4 mons are just going to be so hard to break. It's the only one of the 4 that doesn't have a pivoting move, but I feel like it makes up for that for being so bulky and being an unaware mon and giving us so much things that we needed on the team. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to use Peridot the Clodsire. And I felt like it was a really, really good, solid pick to make up for obviously losing the Tentacruel option last round. So then going into round 7, I feel like we had the bulk. We knew what we were doing. I needed a bit more offense. But looking at our offense, Fluttermane, Chew, they're clearly both special attackers. Though we got a few physical attackers and things like Corviknight, Clodsire, Iron Hands, I did want something that was able to run on both sides. I also wanted to grab a dragon. While there were still a lot of the Ubers are dragons, and I felt like a lot of the great ones were gone by this point. So I wanted to grab something that wasn't a dragon type for our Uber. So yeah, wasn't a dragon type for our Uber. So I was thinking we need a dragon type because dragon is just really, really good this format with all the dragon Ubers running around. Being able to throw out Dracos and stuff like that is really, really important. So Also, I wanted an ice type just to be able to obviously hit the dragons once again, but also be able to deal with a lot the flying types. We were really kind of weak to flying, obviously because of Iron Hands having that fighting type alongside its electric. It's only Corviknight as the resist, so I did want something to be able to threaten back those flying types. So we did want an ice type on the team. So yeah, we picked up Big Diamond the Kyurem. Kyurem is lovely. 95 speed, gives us another pretty fast mon that outspeeds quite a few of the Ubers. 125 HP with 90 defenses is surprisingly bulky for this thing as well. And then you see those 130 in both attacks. Now, both of the Kyurem forms were in the Uber slots, and I much preferred this guy, right? Super cheap. I think he's a steal at 15 points when the other Ubers are like 20, when the other two it's like 26. This thing loses obviously a bit of like the oomph on one side of the physical special side to be able to run either. Has DD with ground coverage and earth power to be able to hit the steel types that the really could potentially wall this. Can run loaded dice like icicle spare sets, which scale shot can be on the special side with Draco, earth power, freeze dry to be able to hit water types. Has other coverage like flash cannon, I believe iron head as well to be able to hit those fairies that also could give it trouble. Obviously, it could just be so many different sets. Can be like weakness policy sets, sub DD sets, just straight up specs or scarf sets. Can be screens as well. This thing is both screens, which is crazy. Has rock coverage, has weather ball, which is really nice. Has flying coverage. This thing has everything that I could want in a good solid dragon type attacker that wasn't from the Uber slots. And yeah, I'm really excited to use it. First time using it, and I cannot wait. This thing always looks so good in mid tier, and I think it's going to be incredible in Ubers as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to use it. Now, let's go moving on to round 8 of the draft. This is the kind of point where we were running low on points. We only, I believe, had 29 points left, and if we were going to be able to pick up a gold Uber, we didn't have 29, we had 30 points, I believe, to work with. If we were going to be able to pick up a gold Uber, at the minimum, it's going to be 26 points, which means we need to have 4 points to pick up 2 mons. So this is the kind of point where I was like, I need something that is obviously not going to be the best, but is going to give us some value to the team. And first of all, I noticed that we kind of struggled with Ghost a bit. Once again, Chew being the only resist when it's not the bulkiest of Pokemon, especially on that physical side, isn't the greatest. And there's some really good Ghosts. Obviously, we had the best one, I believe, in Fluttermane, but there are options in like Giratina and Lunala that could be potential threats to us. So I did want to grab a normal type, and I think we grabbed a pretty solid one in Opal the Ursaring. So 3 points, I think it's pretty solid. That 130 attack is surprisingly high for something this lower tier, especially if we get Guts boost. 90 HP plus 75 defenses. We can run a Violet on this thing. This thing is pretty bulky with Violet. Obviously, has the quick feet option as well, which could be surprising. 55 speed is always really nice. Unnerve to stop berries is also really nice. This thing has a few solid card options. Could be like a rest sleep talk set to take advantage of. Guts, if we want to still run that. We can be bulk up sets. Trailblazers options. Body slam. EQ. I think this also has a lot of fighting coverage as well, in like Brick Break, CC. Has dark coverage and crunch. Has a lot of the elemental punches with things like Fire Punch, Ice Punch, as Low Kick, Play Rough, Rock Move, Seed Bomb, Shadow Claw, can be SD, can be Taunt, Thunder Punch. This thing has so much coverage, especially from that 130 attack. It can potentially be a surprisingly offensive piece. Can be a really solid swap in, and also a really nice thing is that it gives us an option to swap into things like Will-O-Wisp, being able to it basically sets up on, okay, I have an Ursaring on my team, you want to burn something like my Iron Hands or my Kyurem or my Corviknight, then you run the risk of me swapping it to my Ursaring, you activating my Guts, and me potentially being like a Trailblaze set or a Swords Dance set and just really causing problems into your team with Facade. So I really like the way that this thing, just for a low point Pokemon, kind of gives us a solid amount of utility, solid swap into Ghost types, and also just something that kind of threatens off status, which I really think is going to be really big in Ubers. I think status is going to be really crucial this season, with a lot of people wanting to like paralyze the faster Ubers or burning a lot of the physical Ubers, or just genuinely trying to toxic them to be able to stop them just winning the game. So I think that with stats being so crucial this season, I think Earthspring is a really solid low point pick that can give us a lot of utility for how for being on the weak side. So going into round 9, obviously we have 27 points at this point. If we want to pick up a gold Uber, we have to pick up a 1-pointer. And I wanted something that at least gave us some value. And I think Emerald of Volbeat does that. Now, initially, I put this in the Jirachi chat. I was like, oh, which is better, Volbeat or Illumise? As kind of a joke. I was like, haha, funny, terrible Volbeat. But then I was looking at it and thinking about it. And I thought to myself, if I am going to need a 1-pointer, and I did end up needing a 1-pointer, then Volbeat isn't a bad option. Of the two, obviously, Volbeat has the higher attack, while Illumise has a bit higher special attack. They have a few different moveset changes, but they're very minor. But abilities, we have that Prankster. Prankster, I feel like, is so crucial in Ubers. When you have a Prankster mon like this Volbeat with Thunderwave, you can slow down a lot of those Scarfers or big, fast Ubers, like things like Rayquaza or like a Solgaleo, stuff like that. If they get paralyzed, that can really cripple their abilities to deal damage. This thing can come as just like a sick team member to be able to cripple opponents. And it has a lot of coverage, a lot of not coverage, utility. With things like Prankster Encore, Prankster Thunderwave, Prankster Baton Pass to swap around, Prankster Rooster Moonlight to be able to heal, Prankster Tailglow to be able to set up and potentially do something on the special side, although that's not important. Prankster Tailwind to be able to set up for monsters coming after it. Prankster Trick, we can trick like things like Lagging Tail onto our opponent's Ubers, stuff like that. His U-turns, we can be able to slow U-turn in front of big Ubers. This thing is not terrible. It has Endeavor, so we can be like Focus Sash Endeavor sets if we need to. Yeah, this thing isn't the worst thing, and for 1 point, I think this thing can have some utility to add to the team, which is why we picked it up. And I want to see at least one time. I want to get a kill with Volbeat on an Uber. That is kind of a pseudo plan for this team. Obviously, we want to do well, but I want to get a KO on an Uber with Volbeat. And we'll have to see what happens. But that's my hope for this season, is kind of get a KO on an Uber with Volbeat. So yeah, that was our round 9 pick. Just a little bit of utility for the team. Not the greatest one at all. But that does mean that we did have, going into 10th pick, 26 points left over, which means we had our pick of those 26-point gold Ubers. And what did I need? I think I needed another fast Pokemon. I think I needed something that just does damage, and I think we got that in regular Deoxys. Amber the Deoxys, 26 points, 150 attack, 150 special attack, 150 speed. This thing can be physical or special. It's so fast. It outspeeds the majority of the things in this format, except for a few things like Dio speed, its own Dio attack, like Regieleki, stuff like that are the only things that outspeed us. The thing has so much coverage. It has the option to be Stealth Rock or Spikes. It is our only other hazard setter. It can be a Sash set with just lead Stealth Rock Spikes. It can be a spec set or like a life orb set with options like Psycho Boost. That signature move, 140 base power gets -2. That thing is a nuke. You just fire it off. Even if they have a special wall, it's still going to do like 60% of the HP, and you don't even you can just be the rest of your moveset be physical, and you'll still have that monstrous 150 to deal with. This thing has stuff like E-Speed if it's not fast enough already. It has like Superpower, which can also be another way for it to be able to run eject pack sets with stuff like Psycho Boost and Superpower. It has Knockoff to be able to remove items. On special side, it has so much coverage like T-Bolt, Ice Beam, beautiful Bolt Beam coverage. Has stuff like it has CM, so you can be able to set up on that special side as well. Flash Cannon, Fire Punch, Focus Blast, Future Strike, Grass Knot, Ice Beam, Ice Punch. It has dual screens, Meteor Beam, Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Stomping Tantrum, Stored Power Sets, has fast teleport to be able to swap around, has Trick, has Thunder Wave. It has so many cool moves, and I initially, even though my initial thoughts were I wanted Dio attack, I think this thing for 26 points is just really good value. Having your Uber be able to run physical special, I felt was one of the things I really wanted from the Uber. I didn't want to pick up something like a Lunala, which has terrible attack, where everyone's gonna be able to be like, okay, I can bring XX special walls and be able to wall it. This thing, you have to prep for both sides, which I really, really like. You can prep for a Psycho Boost all you want, and then this thing ends up being a Life Orb or like a Choice Band physical attacker. You can prep for it to be a immediate damage spec set, and then you swap in and it just gets a free layer of spikes or rocks. It's really, really tough to take 2 hits from this thing, and that's what I really, really value. Whether it's a Psycho Boost into something like a knockoff, or a Psycho Boost into an E-Speed, or a knockoff into an Ice Beam or something like that. This thing is really, really tough to live 2 hits from. And that's what I really, really value out of it, and I think it was why I think I picked it up as our gold Uber, especially obviously because we didn't have a Psychic type on the team already, kind of because I had an idea that I wanted this a few rounds before. But yeah, that is our team for VDL, and I'll see you lot all for week 1. I'm so excited to use this team. I think it's really, really cool. I cannot wait to just dish out so much damage with Dio, Flood and Main Chew, and have the bulk to back it up in Iron Hands, Core of Blastoise, Clod. This is going to be a fun season, and I'll see you all next week for week 1. Bye-bye!